Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Keep Up with Pryme. Today, we're putting the focus on the accounting industry. In case it's the first time we meet, I'm Laura Andradas, Marketing Lead at Pryme Global, and together with me is Aske Holz, Product Manager at Pryme Global, and we will walk you through the newest features for teams across accounting firms and CPAs. Should you have any questions along the way, please use the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try to solve them at the end of the session. So thank you very much for now, and over to you, Aske.
Thank you, Laura. So let's get right into it. Today we are talking about the new features that we have added for accounting firms in our Pryme Matters for accounting solution. We will start off with a number of new features added with the February release, but also a few new features added in the December and January minor releases. This is a follow-up on what has happened since we had our last check-in in November. We go through this in the order of how things are used throughout the life cycle of a matter. So starting with setup features, then planning features, work features, and invoice features. In the setup area, we have some new features related to matter creation. First off, we have some new code related to matter creation where we've done some architectural changes. They are not something you would see as an end user. It is more of a behind the scenes things, but it is, at least for setting up the system, important to know about. So this is more for those doing the configuration rather than for those using the system as end users. With advanced projects, we have some feature enablement, feature management, and that can be found under Progresses feature management. So search for that. And in here, we can see the features for things you can turn on or off that will be, most of them, mandatory in the future, and you can see when they will become mandatory. One of those features is what we call the project creation common code base, listed here as create project common. It is an architectural change that collects all the logic we have around project creation. Projects can be created, or matters can be created in multiple places. It could be via import options, it could be APIs, it could be the quick guides, the wizards, etc. And up until now, there has been separate pieces of code doing that creation for us. That has also meant that customizations or local changes to those processes needed to be implemented in multiple places. We have now introduced a common code base that should make customizing these processes a lot easier. But in order for you to use that, you must enable this new feature for Create Project Common. That also means that if there are existing customizations done, they might need to be moved to this common code base. So not something that really adds to the end user experience, but it's an architectural change that should make development and maintenance a lot easier when it comes to project creation. Next up, we have another feature with relation to project creation. That is, you can have a meta dimension that has existed for a long time. In the past, we were limited to the meta dimension being a global dimension. We have now extended this to also cover shortcut dimensions. So in project setup, you can define what dimension to be used when creating a new matter. So if you select create dimension, you can select now not only dimension 1 and 2, but all the way up to shortcut dimension 8. That should give some flexibility and allow you to free up a global dimension for something else, and maybe use a shortcut dimension for your meta dimension. In the planning area, we have some new features related to work planning. Work planning features are contained within the Project Work app, where we have the features around creating work items, working with a Kanban board, assigning work to people, And we have extended this with new features such as a new work item calendar, some new processes for defaulting values on new matters, but also email notifications. Let's have a quick look at that. So if I open up a matter, let's take this one as an example. On this matter, I have defined a number of work items to be done on this matter. And these can be found using the Kanban board. We've had that in the past as well, where you can see the different pieces of work, where they are in a workflow, who's going to perform the work, which is a nice feature. You can move things around, you can reassign. We have now extended this with a calendar view as well, so you can see more of a timeline when things are going to happen. And either this for everybody, or if you go to a assignment grouping list, you can see this on a person-by-person basis. So we can see Prakash is doing something here, Claire is doing something here. And just as with the Kanban board, you can, of course, move things around. So you could move this to be earlier or later, or stretch it out or shorten it down. And that will change the start date and the due date on those work items. We have also added email notifications. The email notifications need to be enabled within the Pryme Project Work setup. So if I search for the Pryme Project Work setup, I should be able to find that, Pryme Project Work setup. And here we have a new section for email notifications where I can enable notifications for new assignments. I can enable notifications for overdue to start and overdue to complete. For the overdue to start and overdue to complete, these are scheduled email sends, and you can schedule these with the schedule email notifications. This will create a job queue. It is by default set to run every workday at 8 in the morning, but you can of course change this to your liking. You can even have it run multiple times every day if you want to. The assignment notifications, they are sent immediately. So if I go in here and I reassign this to be for Prakash instead, then there will be an email sent out to Prakash telling him that he has now been assigned, and I should be able to open that up. I got an email. So I got an email saying you are assigned to review proposal, and I get some information about that new assignment. The last change within the work area is we've made it possible to define in templates what the standard process should be. So if I open up a matter template, there is now a field here for the default work process, so you can predefine that for all new matters that are created with this template. You can also define it for projects that are created without a template. If you go through the matter setup, we have the same field in here under create matter, and you can decide what is the default process and set that up. One more feature in the planning area is integration with cash flow forecasts. Cash flow forecast has existed in Business Central for a long time and allow you to create a forecast for cash flow based on different input data. Each cash flow forecast would be based on different inputs. We have now opened up for using data from Matters to a larger extent, and your forecast. So if I open up here and show you the cash flow forecast worksheet, when we create new lines, that is the data that is used in the cash flow forecast. We already had all the standard BC functions for receivables and orders and payables and fixed assets and GL budgets and so on and so forth. We have now added a whole new section for being able to use data from budgets and subscription orders and scheduled billings and ledger entries, etc. So you can create a cash flow forecast based on your metadata. In the work area, we have some new features for time. The first of them being a new field for hours in reopened worksheets. That came as a consequence of the changing of logic for reopening timesheets. In previous versions, when you reopened a timesheet, everything and that timesheet had already been approved and posted to the project. When you reopen it, it would reverse all the entries on that matter. And with the new functionality for reopening timesheets, we no longer reverse those entries immediately. The entries will still stay there, but when that reopened timesheet is submitted again, we then make changes to the matter ledger entries, posting either positive or negative entries to adjust what was already posted. And that means that you can have time sitting on that matter, but you can also have time showing up as time in reopened timesheets that potentially could adjust your balances. So if you're running a very tight control of what is already posted and what is to come and what changes are to come, it can be nice to be able to have this as a reference field. It is not shown by default. You will have to enable it via personalization. We foresee it could be used in reporting as well, as it is a field now available on the task. So there is a new column here that you can show hours in reopened timesheets, but again, not shown by default. You will have to go into personalization in order to make it visible. We also have a new feature for timesheet reminders. Those we've had for quite a long time. You can send out reminders either to the resource or the managers to remind them of timesheets that have not been submitted. What we've now enabled is a possibility to change when those reminders are set out. This is easily found from the Pryme Time setup, where you can schedule those reminders. I could schedule a reminder for unsubmitted timesheet to managers. I get a suggestion for a job queue that will run this email sending. The new feature is that you can add an option in here to say how many days before the end of the period can we send out that reminder. By default, if you're running weekly timesheets and you're running Monday through Sunday, we can only send a reminder at the earliest on Monday if the end is ending on Sundays. Here we have now the possibility to do this a bit earlier. So if I put in -3 days, I can do that 3 days before the end of the period, meaning I could send out a reminder already on Friday nights, reminding people to submit their timesheets if they haven't done so, even though they technically can continue to work on a timesheet through Saturday and Sunday, but that is often not the case. Most people will submit their timesheets on Friday, and maybe this is a good time to remind them about it. In the area of work, we have a last final UI improvement that is in journals, where the fields for matters and tasks are changed to lookups. They were previously assist edit functions. You might not have noticed, but it is one of the areas where we are going through a lot of different places and trying to make things a little bit easier. So if I have a journal here, if I'm looking up a matter, it is now a drop down that shows immediate, and I can just start typing. I don't have to open up a pop-up window to select my project. It is immediate, and I just select, and then I can move on. So it should be a lot easier to do quick entry in the matter time journal and the matter expense journal. In the invoicing area, we have a new feature on contracts. If you have contracts and they are to be invoiced to multiple parties, so multiple parties are paying for the work completed on that contract, then we can now do contract split invoicing. Contract split invoicing means that on the contract, you will set up a splitting rule. So I have a contract here, and I can define that There is a splitting of invoicing. I will do that under the invoicing tab down here, and I could define that there is a customer split, defining that a Datum Corporation will pay 70%, Trade Research will pay 30%, and whenever I create an invoice or try to create invoices, there would be 2 invoices created, one for each customer. So you can split the invoicing. This is completely similar to the function we already have on the matters, where you can split the invoicing for each matter, but now you can do it on a contract level. The last new feature is within the time and materials subcontracting. This is a feature contained in the Project Subcontracting app that allows you to have freelancers or other outside people do work for you and submit timesheets or expense sheets. And then later you do either self-billing for those, or you await a purchase invoice, but you can match it up with what they have reported as time and expense done for you. We have added some additional information in the form of some fact boxes on the subcontractor statements, and we also now allow you to split up those statements either by matter or by the matter manager. And lastly, you can send out those subcontractor statements by email. So if I open up my subcontractor statements, I now, on a subcontractor statement, have some fact boxes with some totals, totaling up what is resources, how much is expenses, items, but also totals in the case for resources, how many hours is it, and it could be other measurements as well for expenses and items. There is also the emailing capability where you can email this out to the subcontractor directly. It will use the email address on the vendor card and send it out as a PDF to that email to that vendor. And you can do that either on a single subcontractor statement, or you can do it in bulk for all your subcontractor statement. Lastly, the splitting feature. When you're creating subcontractor statements, you can decide to split them up either by matter or by matter responsible. This will tie into more of approval processes if the subcontract statements have to be approved on a matter by matter basis, or maybe on a matter responsible by matter responsible basis. Those were the new features for this quarter, this major release. Let's move on and have a look at what's coming in the future. And so for this, we will have a look at the roadmap for 2026. We already somewhat into Q1, but there's a few more things to come. This is all we have on the roadmap so far. The roadmap is always changing, and some things might be taken out, other things will be added, but this is the overall roadmap. Looking more specifically at what would be relevant in the accounting area, we have in Q1, we will have a look at client intake. There will be a client intake and creation wizard that will allow for easier client intake and creation, probably with a request function where you can request a client to be created. It will have to be approved and vetted, go through compliance checking, and then it can be created. We will extend on that in Q2 with a matter creation request, similar to the client creation, and also advanced matter rollover. This will allow you to take existing matters and create new matters for a new year with rules about how to set the new dates, etc. Within the work planning, we will do some more structuring with work item types, so you can have different types of work with different rules. There might be major pieces of work that have then sub-items with less detail, and you can structure the rules around that. We'll also add role-based assignments, so you can have rules around who will do a certain part of a work assignment based on the matter they're coming from. For instance, that certain parts of a checklist is to be performed by a certain role. That could be the matter manager or any other role. On the area of time tracking, we will introduce time tracking outside of BC. There will be an experience where you can have a small app that runs without BC running, and will still require and use a Business Central logic, but an outside app that will be a small window you can have on your screen where you can easily start and stop tracking your time either on separate tasks or work items. In the purchase area, and this relates to the AP automation app, we will have new features for incoming e-documents in Pebble format, and there will also be some enhancements to the text-to-account mapping. Then we will introduce a new app for risk management. To begin with, this will allow you to have a risk register and do risk assessment on a matter-by-matter basis, tracking what are the risks, what is the potential impact, what is the likelihood getting a risk score on those. For accounting, there's probably not a huge need for risk management on a matter-by-matter basis, but definitely when we move into Q3, Q4, we will extend that. That is actually the last point on the Q3, Q4 list. That is risk assessment on a client-by-client basis, which I'm sure will be useful to have. We will also extend that to be able to identify risk with suggestions from Copilot. We will do some enhancements in the budgeting area, allow you to make changes to budget and track those changes and approve on a change-by-change level. In the work planning area, we plan to have more personalized Kanban boards where you can define what you want to see on the Kanban boards, and also potentially connect the work items with work assignments for more resource planning details than what you have in just work items. In time tracking, we will work with descriptions. There will be a possibility to have policies around what descriptions and narratives you have on the work performed. There could be a check for compliance with that policy before submitting a timesheet. It could also be later on before invoicing, checking that all descriptions follow company guidelines and policies. That could be around words allowed, how they are phrased, what language to use, etc. We will also open up for more description batch editing. So if you have a lot of descriptions and narratives on the work performed, you don't have to go through each of the different descriptions. You can work with them more as almost a document format, but doing things like search and replace if there are certain words that needs to be adjusted across descriptions. In invoicing, we will introduce some better workflows for invoice review and approval that align with the standard BC workflows. And lastly, we have the risk management where we will do that for on the client-by-client basis. That's all I had for today. So back to you, Laura, and I think it's time for some Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Aske. Time for some Q&A, but right now it looks like we have no questions. So before we go, just a quick reminder, because tomorrow we have one last Keep Up with Pryme left, the one for nonprofit. In case you're interested, please go to our website, prymeglobal.com, and under live webinars, you will find the registration link. So that's all we had for today. Thanks for joining us, and see you in our next Keep Up with Pryme. Have a good day.
Bye.